All right, Kakura, man, you're at the end of your 12 weeks. How's it feel?
It feels pretty good. Yeah, it was solid. The workouts were very different from what I was used to. But I learned so much and I feel like I made a lot of gains, a lot of progress. It feels like a permanent change in the way I approach I guess my fitness and my athleticism. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. So what was kind of like the biggest takeaways that you got, or maybe actually let's start with the beginning. Where did you start coming in? And just tell the people who are watching like a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yeah. I competed in wrestling. I've been competing in wrestling for almost like 18 years. Now I started when I was 14, or 19, I guess. 19 years. Started when I was 14. I'm 33 now. And yeah, I had a lot of injuries from early on. When I was 18, I had my first shoulder dislocation on my right shoulder. And I competed in college for 4 years. And all those 4 years, I really struggled with dislocations and ankle sprains. So I dealt with all of that. And then, I went into adult life, and I kept trying to stay fit, and just kept trying to exercise, but was just always held back by the shoulder issues, and then back issues started developing. And then when I was, I think 27 or 28, I was wrestling. I was at a wrestling practice, and I'd moved to the UK. I was going to start training for the nationals here, and then I just like snapped a couple ligaments in my knee, and then I had a massive surgery. So I tore my PLC, and they had to repair that and put a synthetic ligament in. Um, got that back. Did a lot of movement training, um, and just I got some no mobility back, but it just never was like, and I never got back to where I was, right? And I still dealt with the lower back issues, slip disc issues. And then of course the shoulder still was an issue as well. Eventually I got my shoulder surgery last November. And so what I found was just like my whole right side was just um, in a situation where it was healed from the trauma of the injuries, but I couldn't get back. I didn't get my mobility back, right? And it just felt like it was all starting to collapse on top of each other, like one issue after another. So it became the hips and knees, and then all these different things. So yeah, saw your content and decided that I needed to go deeper and understand the fundamentals of movement. And yeah, that's what led me here.
Cool, man. So tell us about some of the things that you tried because when you first came on, you were telling me about how you were working with a physio and it just wasn't doing the trick. It wasn't really getting you to where you wanted to go. So tell us about the things that you tried and what you feel like they were lacking in retrospect now that you've started to actually make real progress towards the things you came to us for.
Yeah, I've been to a bunch of physios. Every time I had an issue, I just used the insurance to go to a physio. I went to some of the top institutions here in London. Some really solid folks that work with professional ball players. I had the same physio as one of I think the running back for the Philadelphia Eagles the year that they won, because he's actually from the UK.
Oh,
And which all excellent physios, right? But it's just the systems I felt like were covering the symptoms rather than helping me understand at a deeper level what I'm doing wrong and why I keep having to go back. So that was the main thing. Um, yes, because once you do enough of whatever exercises they're giving you and you're still getting injured, you start to feel like you're a bit doomed. Like this is it. You're getting old. But I knew that wasn't the case. I knew that there was something more that I had to understand. I did the ATG system, which was really good. It helped me explore different patterns and helped me get stronger, and helped me start wrestling again, which was nice. But it just seemed like I hit a plateau, and there were things I just wasn't understanding, and it was like I was hitting these sessions 5 days a week, but just not really um going any further. And I was just I started to wonder if I just had some weird complex list of a set of injuries that these systems couldn't address. Yeah, that was pretty much it. That's what I tried.
Yeah. No, that all makes complete sense. So, what do you think now being well, you're done with Mind Your Movement, you've gone through the first 12 weeks. What do you think is the biggest difference between what we did and some of the things that you were working on with the physio and ATG and any other miscellaneous info you found online?
Yeah. So I'd say from the physio, it's more complex than what you get from a physio. It's more The movement patterns are more basic than what you go through in ATG. Well, I don't even know if I could say that actually, because there's a the you focus on a smaller range of movements, let's say it feels like with patterns, and then you combine them in different ways with this system. But then if you look a little bit deeper, there's a lot more complexity. You just get a lot more understanding of how it all comes together. I'd say the fundamental thing is you simplify what you're doing, but you go in a lot like greater depth in how it all works, and which allows you to really explore. So rather than like your mind being bombarded with all these random stats, which if you want to do that, you can do that, but you start from a foundation of just trying to understand how does a squat work, how does how to do an overhead press, what's the right posture for that, and and then looking within yourself, comparing that to where you want to be, and then learning how to just, I guess, align yourself to the optimal movement pattern. It just feels like there's a lot. I don't know. To some extent, it's a bit spiritual. To some extent, it's a bit scientific, and it's just a very deep process.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely a yin and yang between the tangible and the intangible, for sure. That's
Yeah,
why sometimes I'm glad that other people who aren't me can articulate it because I
yeah.
often struggle. But anyways, what do you feel like was kind of the thing that pushed you to success? Because obviously you're talking about how deep things go and like how the movement patterns are quite simple in nature, but it's really just about understanding the underlying principles in that go into each of those movements. But what was it that you feel like actually got you the results within the program?
Just a combination between desperation and diligence. I just desperately want to perform at the best of my ability and being consistent. And then also just having trust in the system. Like there definitely in the beginning, um, you know, you're going through all this like crazy shaking. I'm sweating in the gym. Like I want sometimes I just want to lift a heavier weight. And like imagine just being able to do a bench press with a heavier weight. It's just a lot more comfortable than doing this lightweight with this particular form and your body's rejecting it. It's just like, what are we doing, bro? Just push the weight up and put a little bit more so we feel good, And so knowing that I felt uncomfortable, but trusting the system because this is clearly something I haven't explored and it's clearly something my body's weak at. Um, yeah, that trust and just being consistent in that and allowing myself to just understand what's happening, all of that eventually led to me discovering these connections within the body that I wouldn't have ever imagined.
Can you give people an example of one of these connections, because I feel a lot of the time people will be like, yeah, of course the body's connected, and they'll kind of
Mm,
not really think past just the words that you're saying, but just give them
yeah.
like one example of something that you found a connection to that then helped you like decrease pain. Like for instance, in your shoulder, how you were restoring function in your shoulder throughout the course of the program. Like what was one of the connections that you felt?
Probably just with the shoulder specifically, the connection to the lat and the pecs, and using those to um making sure that those are activated during the movement. So I had a tendency to shrug a lot. So a lot of the motion was coming from here. A lot of it was going into the joint itself. And actually, you have these muscles that have massive potential here and here that should be carrying most of the energy. But if your posture isn't right, so if your core isn't right and your then hips are imbalanced, would lead your core to be a little bit off. And then maybe if you look even further down, I found out that like I had one of my knees kind of slightly off. And then I go even further down and my feet positioning is off. So just going from like the bottom, like the top down or the bottom up, I find all these different areas where it's like, okay, I need to fix the way I'm um uh getting contact pressing into the ground. I need to fix the way my spine is aligning. There's like certain bits of crowding in my hip. And once I fix that, then it's a little bit easier to engage my serratus, and then it's easier to engage my lats and my pecs. And now I can do this motion with maximum engagement and actually build strength in these muscles, because the lats shouldn't be maybe you can speak a little bit better on this, but the conclusion I came to is it seems like my traps want to do more work than my lats, but the lats should be doing most, they should be the stronger of between the two for certain movements. And so it's a clear imbalance if my lats are trying to carry the load in a particular movement. So just when I'm yeah, exploring this, I just find all these things that are often that when I fix one thing, that it helps me fix other things. And yeah.
I think you found the true key that I've been trying to tell people, but I'm obviously still trying to tell people about, that it's really not the movements, it's not really necessarily the specific workouts we're doing. It's really the understanding of your body and how each piece connects. And there's going to be an infinite amount of ways to articulate that one idea, but just understanding that notion is what ultimately is going to empower you to be the master of your body. And whether you
Yeah.
decide to work with coaches in the future, whether we continue working together, I keep giving you programming, you still
Mhm.
have the keys. And I think a huge piece, I won't talk too much here because I want to hear more from you, but I think a huge piece of this is to understand that even if you have the perfect programming, the perfect exercises that are suited for your exact imbalances, that's still not going to be the brunt of what gets you the results. The biggest thing is really just being able to tune into your body, being able to tune into those little things like, yeah, my trap is firing so much more than my lat, and really just being able to find that balance through your entire joint so that your joints and your soft tissues, your connective tissues aren't taking all that load, so that the
Yeah.
muscles actually properly absorb and transmit force the way that they're meant to. So that being said, I know we talked about stretching a good amount throughout the program. So is that something you do at all anymore, or is that like?
To be honest, it was something I never really did. And when you said that there wasn't going to be any stretching wasn't necessary, I was like, hallelujah. Because uh, I've always had the underlying kind of, it was a theory that I hadn't dedicated much time to, that you didn't need to stretch if you had the right muscle balance, because it feels like you're stretching to undo tension. But if you have balance on both, on the I guess opposing forces, so let's say between your quad and your hamstring, for a simple example, why would you need a stretch? That's a question I had for years, but no, I never found a system that like supported that, right? And so this is the first time I've been able to do a system without getting like more tightness going, as I go through it.
So that was one of the things I remember you saying too, that you're actually able to do workouts now like hip hinges and stuff like that without feeling worse after it.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Would you say that kind of sums up your result? Like, what would you say are kind of like the biggest benefits that you saw in these past 12 weeks?
I mean, the number one benefit is I feel like for every major concern I had for my athleticism, and my movement, I understand the I guess where what the causes are, and I know how to approach it and think about it, and I have more confidence than I ever did before. And I still have work to do, but I feel I just really feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Um, usually this deep into a system, I would have found the shortcomings by now and started to wonder, like, damn, am I ever gonna fix this? But actually, I just feel more confident.
That's what's up, man. I love to hear that. And then what do you feel like, I guess, in terms of the features of the program? So obviously, like we have the support that we give you, like you can send us your videos and we'll give you feedback, or maybe just like the way that the app is set up, like all these different features. What of all of them do you feel like is the one that really helped you excel, or your favorite, I guess, out of all of them?
Um, well, I was thinking about this the other day that if if I just had the programming, just the programming and not the other features, I don't think this would have been very successful for me. Um, I I mean, maybe it's a cop out answer, but I feel like all of it. You know what I mean? Like the 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 form reviews were very helpful, because it puts things into more context. Um, the coaching calls were excellent. Seeing other people's stories, the documents you put together, being it when I'm struggling with something, being able to go back and review that, all of it really was useful. The tips on little other things you can do, in between sessions and stuff like that. All of it was really helpful. I'd say, especially the coaching calls for me personally, because I got to ask questions in I guess in the format that I think about it to a person, and get answers that reflect back the way I'm thinking about it, right? And um, also just seeing other people, um, like seeing you coach other people, sometimes there were things I didn't think to ask or didn't think, um, yeah, just hadn't come to mind. But there might be like a gem that you're giving someone else, and I'm like, oh, let me apply that for myself. And then all of a sudden, it's like solving a problem that I've been trying to address. Because I feel like to some extent, I've been going through like a bit of like it's almost like a puzzle or engineering problem that I've been solving, and getting these little tidbits, help, put it all together.
That's
Mm.
crucial, man. I'm glad you said that the group calls were this valuable for you, because there's something that when you first come in, you might just kind of gloss over that. Like, oh yeah, there's group calls, like, and you might almost treat it like office hours. Like I know personally, like when I was in college and university, I never went to my professor's office hours unless it was literally required to pass the class.
Right, right.
So I want people to really think about those calls as if they're mandatory, in the sense that they're really going to push you forward. Because as you said, there's other people, there's other perspectives that are going to shift your mind in ways you didn't even think about. And then
Yeah,
obviously you're going to be able to ask questions. And we even go over exercises like right then and there, real time. So yeah, I think all of that is huge.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So last question, man. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence about joining? They see my content, but they also see all of this other information online. I mean, it's kind of like where you were at when we first started. It was like, okay, you see all this YouTube content, you see all this Instagram content telling you one thing, telling you another thing. And then you got this guy here telling you, yeah, you just got to improve your movement patterns. You just got to connect to your body on a deeper level. What would you tell somebody who's a little bit skeptical, who's on the fence about joining?
Just throw the other content in the bin. No, yeah, this works. It's as simple as that, I mean, like I've tried other stuff and definitely they work to an extent. It really depends on, I guess, what you're going through, but understanding your movement patterns as a deeper at a deeper level, that's what you do to be successful in any field. Like if you're an engineer, so I'm a software engineer, working AI, and like, you know, with myself or with anybody on my team, if you're struggling with a problem, the solution at a fundamental level is to go deeper. And so, yeah, you could just do exercises given to you by a coach. You could read a study. Cool. You're a little bit smarter, but understanding like from an experiential level and how your body actually works and how to use that to address your problems. There's just no replacement for that. I don't think it's this program versus the other program. It's just like this is deeper. This is more fundamental. This feeds into anything else you want to do. That's the way I look at it.
Appreciate that, Kakara. Yeah, man. Hopefully that'll be enough to push somebody watching over the edge, man. But yeah, it's just like it's different, and it's cool, I'm sure, for people to hear from your mouth and not mine. So appreciate you for that and appreciate you for this journey, man. There's much more to come. We're about to talk about next steps after this, but appreciate you for coming on and telling the people how it is. And yeah, we'll see everybody in the next one.